Hi there. I'm so glad you found your way to check out my story. Maybe you saw my first video, From Trauma to Empowerment, The Transformative Power of MDMA-Assisted Therapy. I did that a year ago at Naropa University. It was my thesis presentation. I wanted to elaborate on sort of the same theme because psychedelics have had such a profound impact on my life that I feel like it's my honor and my duty basically to shed some light on my experience with them and how they've shaped who I currently am, and I would argue saved my life, but definitely changed it. Because I would probably still be alive, but I would not have the quality of life that I have now. And I definitely credit psychedelics to a big portion of that. And everyone has their own path, so psychedelics are coming into the scene pretty strong right now because there's a lot of research coming out, being done through MAPS, being done through other agencies, that is finding really tremendous benefits from especially MDMA-assisted therapy and psilocybin-assisted therapy. Those are two that come into mind really quickly. Also ketamine, cannabis, all of the medicines, LSD from the past and current studies, DMT, mescaline. I can, think of endless studies right at this moment that are finding that these medicines are profoundly impactful for depression, for PTSD, for any kind of trauma and adverse experience. You know, these medicines help people in a way that they can see themselves within like the whole picture. So basically that's why I'm sharing my story about psychedelics and how they've changed my life. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Ukraine, and as many of you may know, some of you may not, Ukraine was occupied by the USSR for a long time, and people in Ukraine are very suppressed. They're very oppressed. They all wear black. It's very shut down, like very kind of, it's a depressing culture to be in, right? And so I came out of this, and had my own childhood trauma, chronic abuse, emotional abuse, emotional incest, things like that I have been working with throughout my life. Most noticeably as like an attachment issue, this inability to cultivate relationships. Well, in my past, I was unable to cultivate relationships that were meaningful and based on love and caring. It was based on, fear and pain, which is what I had learned that relationships were based on from my childhood. So of course I was repeating that pattern. And I had also grown up in California. I moved there when I was 4.5 from Ukraine, and then when I was 12, my parents moved me to Pennsylvania, which is it was the middle of Pennsylvania. It was very, middle of nowhere. And there, I was kind of the minority. In California, there was a lot of diversity. There was a lot of different people, different ethnicities. In Pennsylvania, it was kind of mostly all Catholic white people. And I was different. I was Ukrainian, and I had, I was pretty poor, and so I got picked on a lot, and as a result, I had started suppressing my Ukrainian heritage. I was embarrassed about it and ashamed because I was tortured for it. So of course I tried to push it away and deny it and pretend like it wasn't true. I would pretend like my parents weren't Ukrainian. It was just absurd. Then, when I was 19, in college, I took most of a full dose, which is 3.5 grams of dried mushrooms, psilocybin. And I had a bad trip, or what is called, in the media, a bad trip. I got into a thought loop where I was worried that I would never recover from this place and come back to sobriety. I was really faced with how much I had denied my heritage and how much that is a part of me and my soul, and the mushrooms kind of kicked my ass and said, you can't deny that part of yourself. It's really essential. And I kept envisioning my mom walking in. I kept envisioning the police coming in on me, when I was completely safe. But this is kind of the mental state that I was in, from probably birth until this experience. So for the first time, I was able to see how much unconscious pain I was holding when I was 19. So after this first psychedelic mushroom trip, I came out of it seeing myself with new eyes. I definitely knew I had moved some stuff, but I didn't quite know what, like I knew I had to honor my heritage. And I came out of the trip just drenched in sweat. So you can only imagine the amount of toxicity that I was holding in my body. So then I decided to stay away from psychedelics for a while after this experience, as you can imagine. I continued to drink. I became an alcoholic. It runs in my family, so it just happened. After college, I just kept drinking. It was my coping skill. I would also smoke a lot of marijuana almost constantly. It was, I was just trying to escape myself. So that first trip, definitely woke me up in a way, but I still continued down these disruptive patterns. I was still getting into relationships that felt abusive. I still was, abusing myself with alcohol and other substances and just not, So then, when I was 23, it was 2012, and for my birthday, I wanted to take mushrooms again. And so my friend Eddie got us some mushrooms. They had gold caps. They're psilocybin again. And after this experience, I really started to piece together, more of who we all are as the divine consciousness. It started out really smooth and nice, and then it just wrecked me and I couldn't even leave my bed. But I was flying through different dimensions and witnessing existences that were based on love and created by this different vibration than we have here in our culture. And I was just seeing everything so myself so clearly. The mushrooms sent a clear message. I remember in my head it was why are you taking a depressant every day when you are already predisposed to depression? Because I had been drinking so much. I had been working at a bar, so that was just my life. And just staying up really late, but yeah, they just asked me, they're like, why are you taking a depressant when you're predisposed to depression? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then I also had a visual flash of a painting that I made then later, and just this incredible presence. After they asked me about the alcohol piece, they turned on my body from my root chakra all the way up. I felt completely aroused and turned on. And then the mushrooms told me, life already feels good. Why are you looking for something outside of yourself to feel good? Life already feels good. We already have that pleasure in us. And so after that experience, I was unable to drink alcohol at all. Something about the experience, maybe the mushrooms, they are magical. Something about the experience made my body out of alignment with alcohol. I would take one sip and I would get a headache and start to be hungover. So it was basically just we're done with this medicine for now. So that was the impact from that. And then the next experience I'm going to tell you about, the experience when I was 23 on mushrooms is definitely what catalyzed my spiritual awakening. The experience I'm going to tell you about now, propelled me into my truth and further, pushed my spiritual development. So my next experience is with my first time taking LSD in the form of 2 gel tabs, which is the window pane sort of thing. It stays for a long time. It's a really effective way to take LSD. I took 2 tabs, I'm guessing about 200 micrograms. I also took a little bit of MDMA. And this was my first time taking both substances. I was 23. This was a few months after that mushroom experience. I was really into tripping at this time. And after So yeah, I went to a festival with my now husband. At that time, he was just my friend, and he didn't supply, some guy at the festival gave us this acid. And I took this acid, and the first thing I remember is I'm seeing the life force that's running within every blade of grass and every single person that I'm with. So I'm seeing this like white line rise up through every single tree, every single branch, every single person. And I'm like, oh my god, like this is real. You know, our like the energy and everything is just real, and we're all it. And then after I start to see that, I fall into the earth. I'm sitting cross-legged, I'm falling backwards into the earth, and my husband says that I'm basically having an orgasm. And while I'm falling back into the earth, I'm leaving my body. My soul is either falling into the earth or into the sky. I'm dissolving. I have no idea. But I'm seeing sort of the double ring of fire, which is, I've heard people talk about seeing. And it's basically spinning, and I'm realizing how everything is all one. Our planet is one with the universe. We are one with our planet, and we are one with the universe. We are it. I am God. We're all one. You know, and just these ideas that are blowing my mind, and I'm like coming out of it and just like being on the grass and with my friends, and then I'm falling back into the earth and like having this like, oh my god, I'm God like experience. And then I'm coming back, and then eventually I just like am able to stay in this reality and like watch the fire that is burning next to me, and then I'm here, you know, and integrating it. So after that experience, what I really gathered was that, you know, if I'm depressed, and I'm like, I really felt how lucky I was on this planet, that I'm really blessed. I have this voice, I have these ideas, I'm really smart, I'm really intuitive, I heal a lot of people, I help a lot of people. And like, because of that, I'm super lucky, but I'm still depressed. So how are other people coping if they're less lucky than I am? Like, and I'm still depressed, you know? Like, this real knowing that something was going on the planet that needed help, and that I had a piece to contribute to that. And after that experience, I really committed to myself and to, you know, the universe, that I would offer my guidance and my support to people who are also going through, you know, spiritual awakening and learning how to live in alignment with their highest truth and their highest selves. But the story doesn't end there. So I left that festival and was awake for 3 days afterwards, because I was just like, oh my god, like we're all one, I'm God, like what's going on, right? I'm so lucky. And then like, and honestly it's taken me till today, till this like I'm still integrating this experience, and that was in 2012. So these experiences are really profound. And so after I had this experience with acid and MDMA, I went to the chiropractor. I was seeing a chiropractor regularly at that time. I got an adjustment, and any old adjustment that I usually get felt really good though when he released my hips. And I went to him because after the festival I had felt like something was up in my back, like something needed to move. Like I wasn't sure if it was because I sat on the earth for 6, 7, 10 hours, I don't even know, and then fell into it, or if it was something else. So I went and got adjusted, and it felt really good. On my drive back from the chiropractor, I noticed that I had the realization that my dad had done his best, that everything I'd experienced in my childhood was just, you know, the best that my dad could do with his level of consciousness, and this like immense forgiveness and, you know, just acceptance washing over me. And so then immediately I start noticing hives. I have hives pop up like in little clumps on the sides of my hips, like right around where is my first chakra. And then I go to Goodwill, because I don't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, I have hives, like whatever, you know, no big deal. Like, it's just itchy, maybe I touch something I'm allergic to, that happens sometimes. So I just ignore it. And then I went to Goodwill, and I'm getting hives here, and then I'm here, and like here at every chakra. Like I'm getting hives. The hives start covering my head, and it makes sort of like a toroidal shape, and like then eventually, within a couple days, my entire body is covered in hives. I remember being in the bathroom just scratching. Like I knew I couldn't go to the hospital because they would just like give me drugs to numb it, but I knew it had something to do with this spiritual awakening. So it's so intimate. I can't believe I'm sharing it with the world. Oh, it needs to be shared though, it's true. So I'm covered in these hives, and I call my yoga teacher because I'm like, well, yoga, right? She should know. And she's like, I've never had anyone experience something like this. I have no idea. I'm like, okay. Then I call my chiropractor. I'm like, so like this happened right after a session. Is that, you know, in any way related? And he's like, I have no idea. So my two like guides and teachers that I saw in State College had no idea what was happening to me. But there was like a deep innate knowing that everything was okay, that I didn't need to go to the hospital, that I had my cells, every single one of my cells had been holding this toxicity from my childhood of like resentment and anger and like hatred and like, you know, just like, why was I tortured, right? And then it was just like released out of every one of my cells through like, I think the combination of acid, MDMA, the chiropractor kind of gave me, or it definitely gave me a Kundalini awakening. And when I started doing my own research when there was no one to talk to. I felt super lonely and super lost and confused, and I couldn't go to the doctor, of course, and I didn't really have a therapist or like a mentor, you know, it was just totally alone. And like psychedelics are still such a hush-hush thing. I didn't want to just broadcast like, hey, like I'm having this experience like anyone else, you know? And so hold on, I forgot what I was talking about. 1 second. This cat distracted me. But yeah, so I had gotten through the hives, and but I found this book called Kundalini Awakening because I was doing my own research because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure what to do, and no one could help me, and no one had answers. So when I found this book, Kundalini Awakening, that helped me a lot. And I was like, okay, like other people go through this is fine, I'm gonna be okay, it's gonna pass, you know, it's just moving through, it's just passing by. Basically, it catalyzed my entire spiritual awakening. And then I came to Naropa, following my path to study, you know, and a more like mindful, present-centered approach. And here was where I tried DMT and MDMA therapy and psilocybin in therapy. And that just absolutely changed my life because I had a guide anchoring me to the present moment constantly. So he was always reminding me to use these medicines as tools to develop myself in order that I can like live from this place of being in alignment with my heart. And basically all these medicines do is show you what's true. So they make what's unconscious conscious. They give you insight into, you know, problems that you create for yourself. And these sort of like patterns that we go on in our brain called feedback loops. And psychedelics sort of undo those. They undo the programming that is based in fear. It literally gives people another chance. Like, had I not done mushrooms, I probably would still be an alcoholic. I think. I mean, I don't know. Alcohol is really like a damaging neurotoxin, but I hope I would at some point wake up from it. But it's such a, you know, it's hard to get out of that unless we have something that helps us. And psychedelics are a tool, you know, they're not an addiction. There's definitely a point in my life where I was doing it, probably like what people would judge at at an excess, but in that time I was exploring and I was anchoring in that experience of being on LSD and being on mushrooms, and how do I draw from that to make my life more enriching so I can move the energy through my body more easily. So I'm an empath, I'm an energetic empath, so everything stuck to me at that point. I had no idea how to like move it through me. I would just feel it all. And that's, you know, how I was brought up, to not have boundaries, to not think that my body was a safe place. So it was really a difficult transition. I had to give up a lot of friendships. I had to reinvent my look. I had to, you know, like just think about who I wanted to be and what kind of impact I wanted to make on the world in a true way, rather than before the experience just running, like constantly surviving, like just trying to get to the next something, you know, just to escape from myself, just to not be present with what is real, which is exhausting. But yeah, psychedelics have helped me be present with what's true in my life, and to look at my trauma, to, you know, feel it, scream it, rage with it, and then let it go, like let it out of the cells in my body, let it on, like let it rest, let my ancestors rest, you know, it just needs to die. These patterns just we need to evolve, basically. And psychedelics help us evolve so much. They're a huge tool in the way that they open the doors of perception, the ability to take in the reality as it is and as you create it. Because the truth is that you create your reality every moment. Every thought you think, every emotion you have, you contribute to the collective field. And what psychedelics do is they allow you to see that impact. They allow you to see, wow, like, as I'm enjoying this moment, everything is bright and sunny. And then the next moment, I'm feeling more depressed and everything kind of falls and is gray, you know? We're able to experience that reality as we create it, which is really profound, because on a moment-to-moment basis, we sometimes aren't aware of these like unconscious beliefs that are running through us, because it's these old stories from our ancestors and their ancestors of these like ways of survival, which have been, you know, they have worked and that's why we're here, but now they're sort of damaging us, and we're living in a culture where we really need to examine our thoughts. We really need to examine those unconscious beliefs, or else they're going to keep manifesting the pain and suffering that we're currently experiencing on the planet. Because that pain and suffering isn't separate from us. We are all connected to it. It's not, you know, it's not like the people in Syria are different from us. We are the same animal. We come from the same earth. We bleed the same red. And until there's any sense of peace and harmony and people at least having their basic needs met, you know, there's not going to be a sense that we can rest as, like, you know, rainbow warriors. Because as we are on this path, we realize that, like, yes, we can touch into this enlightenment space and live from it and be present. But until our brothers and sisters and neighbors and continents are also experiencing this enlightenment, then our enlightenment doesn't matter. So it's a very common experience for me and several people I know that are on this path, and we're all starting to realize that, you know, we can be as guru and zen as we want to be, and we can be present and like so heart focused, but until the whole planet is feeling this way, then it doesn't matter how we feel. So, like, we still won't feel 100%. So that's why I'm offering these videos. Psychedelics are nothing to be afraid of, you know? If it's a scary experience, then it's something inside of you. And it's just a metaphor. It's nothing that is gonna hurt you. It's just something that you need to learn, you need to purge, and you need to move through. It's not gonna hurt you. There's so much talk about psychedelics making you go crazy and all these things, and There's also a lot of resources online where you can look up tons of people who have had these experiences. They'll tell you which dose to take. They'll tell you how much to take to have a pleasurable and positive experience. The only time that dangerous things happen is when people take too much, not knowing it's not a recreational thing. You know, I can take a little bit of LSD and go to a concert, no problem. It's still a really intense experience, and I rarely do it, but it's also really profound to connect with people in that way. So, but most of the time, it's a personal journey. It's important to think about your set and setting. Where's your mind? Are you in depression? It's probably not the best choice then. You know, if you're in a really tough place where you're judging yourself a lot and, you know, things aren't feeling great, I mean, you can definitely take psychedelics as a tool and they will offer you the healing that you need, but it might be dark and it might be uncomfortable. And if you're desperate enough, then it's the right choice for you. But if you're feeling good, if you just want to explore yourself, know your boundaries better, know who you are, understand this reality a little bit better, then definitely I would highly encourage you to investigate into taking psilocybin mushrooms or LSD. DMT, I would advise to have a sitter, to have someone with you. And you can have a sitter either way. It's kind of nice to have someone who's willing to just like drive you to the woods if you so desire, or, you know, go for a walk, or, you know, but a lot of times psychedelics are, for me personally, is an internal journey. And the times that I get most out of it is when I'm focused internally. And I think you'll find that it naturally kind of happens. You'll focus internally. But yeah, so I have a lot of experience with psychedelics. I have a lot of journeys under my belt. I have a lot of experience sitting and helping others. My husband and I have a wealth of experience. If you have any questions, if you are interested about any of this in terms of psychedelics and this topic at all, write me. My email is avp5030@gmail.com. I'll do my best to answer your questions, and I'm so glad you're interested in psychedelics, because they will truly change the way you perceive reality and your life. Thank you.